I've been meaning to post a Daft update for about 6 months now. I think my last Daft video was the story of moving here. I've been pretty active in the Facebook Daft group, chatting with other Dafters, and that group helped me a lot when I moved, and it's been important to me to share info there. So, why not more on YouTube? Honestly, I haven't posted a lot on YouTube since moving here because, well, I've been busy trying to rebuild my business ventures, cycling, mostly running errands, and learning Dutch, of course. Today happens to be the 1 year anniversary of arriving here, so it's time to share some thoughts. I've wanted to move to Europe since high school when I spent time in Germany as an exchange student. To me, as a teenager, Europe was pretty exotic. The food, the history, the architecture, the culture, the languages, public transit, even the politics, all of that was really appealing to me. As an adult, I got into cycle touring in Germany and Austria, enjoying the experience of essentially living in Europe on the bike for a couple of weeks every summer, and I often had thoughts of moving here. The Netherlands was never on my radar, though. It's a flat country and it didn't seem very exotic for cycle tours. Even when I started looking seriously at moving to Europe, the Netherlands wasn't on my wish list. Part of the reason for that was the conservative, at least by European standards, government, which was replaced recently by a more moderate government. In my early videos about Daft, I mentioned that Germany or Denmark were my main goals and that I ended up in the Netherlands simply because it was the only visa that would work for me. Prior to choosing Daft, I'd spent all of a few hours in Amsterdam, and I didn't know much about the Netherlands, but I did know a Dutch guy that hated it and told me that I would be miserable here. I came with very little idea of what to expect. My scouting trip was a total of 4 days to search for a house. I bought my house not even knowing there was a nearby town with multiple grocery stores, hardware store, home goods stores, and more. I literally just picked the least awful house I could afford with the expectation I'd figure it out from there. In retrospect, I can see why my friends and family were a little bit concerned. If you've watched my Daft video series, you'll know I encountered a lot of difficulties in the process of moving. Since that series, I've also encountered problems with the business that I purchased. I've had a broken tooth, shingles, probably whooping cough. One of my cats recently ended up in the hospital for a week with a severe bacterial infection that nearly killed him. And my business ventures haven't been as successful as I hoped. It's been a rough start. It would be natural to think that with all that's gone wrong, I might harbor thoughts of returning to the US or trying my luck elsewhere. Nothing could be further from my mind. Despite all that, I've landed in a great community. I have friendly, helpful neighbors, whether that's cat sitting, helping me trim the hedge and take the trimmings to the recycling center, figuring out the trash system, referring me to a vet, or just general advice about living here. They've been more than happy to help. I love the slow pace of life in the countryside. It's quiet, nobody's in a hurry. It's been a great change of pace after living in a city for 20 years. The cycling here, of course, is incredible. And you'd think that a flat country would be boring to cycle in, but it's not. Even in my remote region, there are atmospheric towns with fascinating history and great architecture such as Veere, Middelburg, Hulst, and IJsendijk. I have everything from beaches to riverfront, creeks, wetlands, forests, open fields, and historic windmills, all a short ride away, plus two of the major cities of Belgium. For every problem I've had, I've met someone who's been eager to help me, most of them simply out of generosity. I've gotten involved in the local music community where I've met another welcoming group of people, though sadly no private music students yet. While my initial intent was that the Netherlands would be a path to EU citizenship so I could move elsewhere, now that I'm settled, I have no desire to leave. This is my home now, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. So, what have I learned in my year here? First, DAFT is very easy to apply for. This isn't the U.S. immigration system, and you don't need to hire an attorney. It's literally filling in a form. The dafthub.nl website has a free guide that explains the process. In fact, it's so easy you can do it on the plane on the way over and pop it in the mail when you arrive, ideally by registered post. There are groups that make it sound like you need their services because, of course, this is how they make their money. Moving's expensive enough, though, without paying for a simple process. The only time you need help is if you choose a BV business structure. This involves a notary and a good accountant and needs to be set up before leaving the U.S. if you want the 30% ruling. All a legal entity would do is coordinate the communication between the notary and the accountant and then charge you big bucks for it. A whole cottage industry has grown up around the DAFT visa, fighting for a slice of the pie, from maklars, which are realtors, to lawyers, some of whom are not actually licensed Dutch attorneys, to boutique relocation services, none of which are really necessary part of the process. Yes, it's daunting, but you can do it, and there's a great community of DAFTers in the Facebook DAFT Hub group that are happy to help you when you get stuck. Save your money for other expenses that come with moving overseas. Know the difference between a ZZP and a BV business structure. A ZZP is a very simple structure that's easy to set up and simple to operate. A BV is a corporate structure with which you can get the 30% tax ruling that gives you a deduction on your taxes for 5 years and allows you to exchange your driver's license for a Dutch one without the driver lessons and testing requirements. It also has a business liability aspect and some other benefits. While some advisory entities will push the advantages of the BV, there are some important drawbacks. It's a lot more complex and expensive from an accounting and administration perspective, and you need to bring in around 100,000 euros per year so you can pay yourself the mandatory salary. If you can't pay the salary, that shortfall counts against your equity, meaning you very easily could fall below the required 4,500 euro equity required for DAFT, which in return can cost you your renewal at the 2-year mark. This is an important topic to research very carefully. Seek ways to become part of the community. In my case, that involved joining area music groups, find clubs that share your interests, get to know your neighbors, and most importantly, invest a lot of time learning Dutch. It goes a long ways towards showing that you're someone seeking to become part of the social fabric. The cycling infrastructure really is as good as advertised. I recently did a short cycling trip in Germany on routes I've ridden before and once considered premium. After cycling for a year in the Netherlands, those routes felt like a third world country with monotonous scenery. This has been a major highlight for me as an avid cyclist. It takes time to learn where to shop for stuff, so don't be afraid to ask questions and explore area stores. When it comes to groceries, one of my early lessons was that food spoils more quickly and refrigerators are often small, so most Dutch buy groceries frequently. Some stores like Jumbo and Albert Heijn are premium with a lot of variety and expense, whereas Lidl and Aldi have lower prices and less selection. For home improvement, there are places like Gamma, Praxis, and Hornbach. Kruidvat is similar to a U.S. drugstore minus the pharmacy. Amazon exists as a .nl version, and bol.com is the popular Dutch alternative. Shipping is quicker because goods don't have to travel very far here. Shipping can be its own adventure, though. I've found packages dropped in my recycling container, my shed, my mailbox, with neighbors, and there's the one shipment that just never was located. DHL still insists they delivered it but won't tell me where, and the company I ordered from just never bothered to answer any of my emails. Some people have had to purchase a package drop box to combat the hide-and-seek games of Dutch delivery drivers. Embrace the differences. If you're moving here to move away from something, in this case the US, rather than moving here because you want to live in Europe, it might be harder to adjust. The culture is different, the language is different, the food is different. While I left the US because of the political situation, I ultimately moved here because I wanted to live in Europe. I like democratic socialism, I like the culture, I like the history and architecture. I moved because I wanted to be here, and it's why I want to stay. Sometimes I even like the weather, though not so much the headwinds. Don't hesitate to contact government agencies for help. Dutch government agencies are staffed by actual, helpful, knowledgeable people. Questions about the DAFT application? Call IND. Confused about tax stuff? Call the Belastingdienst. Learn what to expect from the weather and seasons. Here near the coast, it's always windy. Sometimes it drives me crazy. Winter days are short with the sun coming up after 9 and setting around 4:30. Be prepared to handle those short days mentally and embrace the gezelligheid. In the summer, it's the opposite with the sun coming up before 5 and it's staying light until as late as 10. I had to invest in window coverings because the early morning sun was making it hard to sleep. Those coverings also came in helpful to keep the temperatures down on hot days. Also, buy a fan before you need one. Fans sell out instantly during heat waves, much like hoarding toilet paper during COVID. Take the time to prepare for the move. It's tempting to get out of the US as quickly as possible. I made some business decisions during the stressful period of moving that I really should have researched more. I just didn't have the time and energy. It's a vulnerable time, and there are always people happy to monetize that vulnerability. If you really insist on hiring help, ask for references in the DAFT Hub Facebook group. Not every help agency is competent or helpful, and some seem to have invested more in advertising than in knowledge. Finally, come with sufficient savings. I know a growing number of people understandably feel an urgency to get out of the US. The Netherlands is not cheap, and the housing crisis means a very competitive rental market. The cost of living here is high, from utilities to groceries, power tools, electronics. Starting up or transitioning a business can take way more time and money than you think. You don't want to give up everything just to end up returning to the US because you ran out of money. The Netherlands isn't going to be the right fit for everyone, but for me, this has become home. I came in with very little in way of expectations and just a desire to make it work. I know a lot of people in the US who care about me would like to see me return, but after a year here, I can say that the Netherlands is my home, and I plan to stay. I have a lot more work to do to build my businesses, to generate the income to support being here. And there's going to be more hurdles to cross, such as the 2-year renewal point and likely citizenship. I still struggle to understand the local dialect, aside from the cows behind me, but I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to what the next year has in store for me, hopefully without all the drama of the first year. On behalf of myself and the cows, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!